Hello, this is Lee, here again for another video. Thank you for your kind attention. This time I'm going through my digital versatile disc collection and looking at some of the videos that I have. I have many Shimmer videos, of course, and I have several others that I would like to look at, so I'm going to talk about a few of them right now, if you don't mind. The first here is PWWA, an Australian promotion. This was the first time on DVD that the Shimmer Women Athletes title was defended outside of the United States. And, in fact, outside of North America completely, in Australia. This video is listed as a DVD-R, but if you take a look at the inside of the package, it looks like it's been professionally pressed. I purchased this from highspots.com. Disclaimer, I have nothing to do with Highspots. I bought this with my own money. It was not free. But anyway, this particular video has only 6 matches on it. I was inspired to buy it because in the course of the Shimmer Women Athletes DVD series in 2011, it mentioned that there was a historic match. And it didn't show the match, just showed a couple of highlights. Of course, the champion at the time... Yes. The Shimmer title match with Madison Eagles. Yes, I remember it. Madison Eagles was quite a entertaining champion, I must say, for the Shimmer promotion. All throughout her title run, she was very convincing as a top heel, as they call it in the business, the villains, the thugs, the bad guys. Or bad women, I suppose, the villainesses, the femme fatales, if you will. Anyway, her physique was that of a ballerina or a graceful bird, as the name would suggest, but she looked like she could actually hurt someone, and she had some very powerful moves, and swiftness and cunning. She made a very effective, I think, challenge to the other wrestlers. In this particular match series, I would say, since I am not from Australia, as you might imagine, and I'm less familiar with the Australian culture, at the same time, though I was used to the North American style, I was intrigued to see the many different wrestlers that came from Australia. For example, you have the Madison Eagles, as I mentioned. Jessie McKay, I believe, is also an Aussie, as they call them. Like her country person. Madison Eagles and Jessie McKay were once part of the Pink Ladies tag team, and they began as very graceful, ballerina-esque characters, and then each struck off on their own. Jessie McKay was everybody's favorite girlfriend, which could be both positive or negative in her different personas, and she ended up being a very heroic figure that got all the fans behind her. Both women very slender, very fast-moving, good-looking, but powerful, very different from the blonde, bombshell stereotype many are familiar with from WWE and the Attitude Era and so forth. I will say, though, that on this series, apart from the Shimmer performers I was familiar with, the other matches just didn't have as much appeal. But this may be because I'm simply less familiar with this roster. Many of the others, I would say, would definitely never make it on television, simply because they were not either extremely acrobatic or extremely model-esque. However, I will say kudos to the team who put this together very inexpensively. The visual quality was perhaps not as good as I had seen in other promotions. The production values were lower, but certainly the athleticism and effort put in by the talent was admirable. There were some very funny moments also, I will say. I believe when Kelly Skater, who is also from the region of the Australian continent, this young girl from the audience called her Goldilocks because of her golden locks, and asked her about her bears, something of that nature. It was very funny. So I'm always drawn in when the fans really get into it and start interacting with the performers. Kelly Skater, of course, later became a very heroic figure, very fan favorite, but at this time she was still transitioning from a heel or a lovable cheater, I suppose. She would later team with Tomoka Nakagawa, who was in similar circumstances. I always enjoyed those characters who were so bad they were good, if you know what I mean. So I've certainly said enough about this. This is much shorter than I'm used to, but it's well worth looking at. This was about $15 when I purchased it. Let's see, what else have we here? Ah, yes. This was quite a good series. These I found from a website called Smart Mark Video. Disclaimer, I have nothing to do with Smart Mark Video. They didn't pay me, they didn't give me freebies. I had to pay for these. There are 3 DVDs. Actually there's 6 DVDs. Because though there are 3 cases here, each one contains actually 2 videos. And each DVD case is based on one night, if you can see that. One night of the show. I apologize. Yes. This was called JoshiMania. And each of the covers features some caricatured artwork that is a representation of Manami Toyota, the legendary Joshi performer. One of my favorites from the early 90s, early to late 90s. She still wrestled for many years after her run in the All Japan Women's Promotion, AJPW. Then we have Sarah Del Rey. And of course all these are based on other artworks. This reminds me very much of Street Fighter 2, Chun-Li or Ryu. This I couldn't place it, perhaps Space Channel 5 or something like that. That is actually Sarah Del Rey. And she featured very prominently as the first Shimmer champion, after which she went from her soft-spoken, heroic, very athletic position to kind of a deranged, punk-esque bad girl, connected with the late Larry Sweeney, may he rest in peace, one of the few men to appear on the Shimmer stage as part of the regular program. Then she became kind of a queen of wrestling, and she was extremely vicious and strong and bad-tempered, but very much a respected, tough person, if you will. So there's that series. And what... oh yes, I forgot the best one of all. Aja Kong, looking there like the Incredible Hulk, or perhaps the Thing from the Fantastic Four. Aja Kong, yes, another legend. This series, JoshiMania, was heavily promoted through the Chikara promotion. Disclaimer, I have nothing to do with the Chikara promotion either. Just getting that out there. JoshiMania was heavily promoted as the first time that American audiences would have a chance to see live some of the great women wrestlers from Japan. The Joshi. Joshi simply means woman or girl, female. Joshi Purorisu, I believe it's called, women's pro wrestling. There are many fans of Joshi Puro who began or attempted different independent promotions in the United States. Dave Prazak, who co-founded Shimmer, was a big fan, he says. And the Chikara promotion bases itself off of Japanese wrestling, off of Mexican lucha libre, and other styles mixed together. And one thing about the Chikara promotion is that they no longer have a men's and women's division. Rather, they have what are called intergender matches. And someone might hear that and think, well, what does that mean? That doesn't sound very proper. And certain states have laws that men and women are not allowed to combat one another. Pardon me. Well, professional wrestling is a little different because it is staged. It is not an actual combat. But in the Chikara promotion, if you watch it long enough, you'll notice that most of the performers are smaller in stature and size and the build. Throughout wrestling history, there has always been a heavyweight but also a junior heavyweight or cruiserweight or X division, a smaller size wrestler who is generally seen as swift, fleet of foot, high-risk maneuvers, much more emphasizing the acrobatic skills. And you'll notice that at its best, women's wrestling generally tends in that direction also. Certainly there are your larger women occasionally, such as Aja Kong, who features on this set, or Dynamite Kansai, Bull Nakano, Awesome Kong, or Amazing Kong, depending on where you find her. But largely, the smaller size of the woman in the ring lends itself to that acrobatic style. Anyway, most of the men in Chikara are comparable in size to the women. Now, of course, the different physiology of men and women naturally favors the men, and so the women tend to be underdogs, to use the term, but they are not simply managers or valets or cheerleaders, but they compete often on tag teams or trios, battle royals, and so forth. So JoshiMania features not only some of the Chikara regulars, very colorful characters, masked villains and heroes, comedic, cartoony characters, and lovable sidekicks. All these characters are mixed together with some icons of the Japanese wrestling scene, and also some newcomers. So it's hard to recommend any specific volume, but just looking at some of the matches here and recalling my interest, I was so sad that I couldn't witness it firsthand. But night one was very good. It featured Sarah Del Rey, who I have great admiration for, against Aja Kong. And Sarah Del Rey was heavily promoted in this as a rising star who had conquered so many challenges, and the crowd was very behind her, and I think you will be too as you watch this. You can't help but cheer for her. Aja Kong, of course, was given great honor as someone who, of course, was a bully, a monster, someone who just enjoys beating other people to a pulp. However, she has been through so much and done so much to, well, let's put it this way. Every hero needs a villain, right? And if you have a big villain, this would be like seeing Darth Vader or Doctor Doom. Even though they're the villain, you know that they've had great battles with the heroes, and it's just something to see them firsthand. And after all these years, Aja Kong, she still has what it takes to be that character she always was. And it's funny to see, modern wrestlers following in the footsteps of these ancient, I shouldn't say ancient, but these veterans, and yet these veterans are still around. And then seeing like what happens when they come face to face. Now, Ayako Hamada, who is a third-generation wrestler, she also features prominently in this. And I think I remember hearing that she was a substitute, that she wasn't actually originally supposed to appear. Could be wrong about that, but in any case, she seemed like she belonged there, just like everyone else. And Hamada is one, she had a run in TNA on television, very promising, but for whatever reason, I think it had to do with immigration, she was not allowed to continue. And that's unfortunate, because she was very skilled. And despite, she's very pretty, but she did not have the same model look that some of the television wrestling favors. Despite that, she was allowed to really show off her talent. And I think this, as everything else, showcases her abilities. Many strong strikes, flips and dives off of the ring ropes and the turnbuckles. She does an amazing moonsault backwards flip, and yet whether she's in front of a small group or a large group, she always gives it her all. And I can greatly respect that and appreciate that. I had the opportunity to meet her after a Shimmer show once, and just thanked her. I don't know if she understood what I was saying because of a language barrier, but I was very impressed, and I tried to tell her what a wonderful job she was doing and to keep it up. Let's see. Yes, there was some JWP wrestlers on here. I remember. Yes. Yes. Mayumi Ozaki. One of the great villains, hardcore wrestlers from the Joshi scene. She's fallen on hard times, I feel. One of the wrestlers that she wrestled had an accident in the ring. There was just some bad things that happened in her life. But here she just seemed just like someone who is just happy to be doing what she loved to do, and just the fans were just very grateful to see her doing this. Kind of reminded me of like just so many other wrestlers where maybe they've been away for a while and they come back and people are just so grateful. There were some other good talents here, and some very funny sequences with some ice cream men and things like that. Ah yes, the ants. If you're not used to the Chikara style, some of this may not be to your liking. I would say Night 2 of JoshiMania, even though the in-ring work, the match quality was excellent throughout, Night 2 has a little bit of a different style than the others, because as you watch, you'll notice that, well, right off the bat, beating around the bush, they're in a school gymnasium, a basketball court. The ring looks like it's going to fall apart. Some of the turnbuckles are kind of sagging to the side. It looked a little bit shabby, I'll be honest. But in the ring was Manami Toyota, the legend. A small group of people in a little gymnasium watching this match go on, I kind of felt bad for them. I thought they should be in a giant arena full of thousands of screaming fans. And I guess the thing is, in her prime, when the women's promotions in Japan were all the rage, that's what Manami Toyota was doing. Now she's just wrestling for fun, more or less, for a group of devoted fans. The other two nights, Chikara was in a much grander, more aesthetically pleasing arena, I will say. So just be aware of that. If you can get past the low-budget look, it's definitely worth watching. So I got these as a set. And the thing was, they were produced so quickly that while you're listening to the commentary, it's funny, they make little jokes about how the DVDs are already available and the show isn't even over yet. It was quite funny. But I think what they did is they simply printed out these stickers and put them on the covers. So these are actually DVD-Rs, these are not professionally pressed. But they're produced by Chikara, so, I mean, these are legitimate. But these are single-layer DVDs. So, quite interesting. And this is the polar opposite to Shimmer, where Shimmer takes 6 months or so for them to get out the new set. And of course, you can see the difference in quality of the product. I mean, these you could just copy to a computer. I mean, it's pretty much the same thing. But if you do enjoy that, do consider purchasing this to support their efforts. Note, this is not an official endorsement of any kind. They also are available streaming, I believe. I prefer to have DVDs myself. Anyway, there's that. So, JoshiMania. Now, of course, if you can watch the actual matches in Japan, they're just a whole amazing experience. And to be part of that culture, I think you could really appreciate it. But even if not, it would still be worth seeing. But most living in North America don't get that opportunity. Well, there's more, but I think that will suffice for now. Thank you for listening.